Hi, I'm Becky Meagher, and welcome to Transitions, Body, Mind, Spirit. Transitions. We all have different transitions in our life. I like to use the metaphor of triathlon, something that I do. Triathlons, first year swimming. Then you take your goggles off and get ready for the bicycle, and you're in the transition area. And then after you bike, then you run, and you take the bike down and put your shoes on and run. And that's a great metaphor for our lives. We have so many different transitions in our lives. And we have an amazing person here who is an example of transitions. In fact, he can help you with his wonderful philosophy, say maybe religion, some say, and we're going to learn how he has transitioned in his life, and we're going to have two shows, so stand by for show number 2. But we have Reverend Dr. Mitch Johnson.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, Becky.
Yes. And Mitch Johnson is a minister at, well, you say what you are doing now, and then we'll go back to your childhood.
I'm the minister at the Center for Spiritual Living Nashville, which is on Charlotte Pike, right across from Nashville West over there, 6705 Charlotte Pike.
Yeah.
I've been doing that now for 28 years.
Wow.
I know, scares me too, but
8 years.
but it's fun. And more than that, I liked what you said earlier about this being, it's not a religion though. It's, people often ask me, are you a religion? No. We look at all religions and we find that at their core they teach something very similar, which is love and doing unto others as you would like to be done unto you, and how to create things. Actually, all of them have that in there. But what we do, we like to say that we're a philosophy and a faith and a way of life. So those three things kind of that appealed to me when I first got into this teaching. It's called the science of mind. And we can get into that later, but basically it's been a philosophy that has helped me through many changes in this life. And life is all about changes, as I'm sure you already know. And changes are inevitable. And just look at the season. It's changing right now, as we said here. It's fall. It was summer, and then it's going to be winter, and then it's going to be spring, and so it's inevitable that this is going to happen. And in our own lives, it's inevitable that we change. We get older, we learn new things, we forget old things, sometimes we forget new things, but it's always about changing. And so to me, the nature of the universe is that it's about reaching out in a creative way to create something new, using the change to create something new. And we do that. The universe does that. They tell us now it's racing and it's expanding. Hard for me to imagine. But if it's racing and expanding, whatever that universe is doing, it's doing in us as well. It's doing in our hearts and minds. So the question becomes, are we going to fight the change? A lot of people do. Or are we going to use it to our advantage? And there's a big difference there. Yes, some changes that happen to us are tragic. And some changes that happen to us are not what we really wanted. But in each change, there's a way for something creative to happen, for something new to happen, for some, let's say, blessing to happen to you.
Exactly. This philosophy I have been a student of for probably 25 years myself, and I know it has changed my life into a wonderful life. I am so blessed in so many ways. But I would like to have you explain about your beginnings back when you were a kid. I mean, you have transitioned. You were a child gospel singer. And tell us about that, and what the philosophy you were raised in was very conservative, am I correct? Yes. And maybe judgmental, or maybe
I don't want to judge it.
Okay.
It's, I was raised Southern Missionary Baptist.
Okay.
And so we we sang gospel music, the whole family sang, the Singin' Johnson family. And we went to different churches throughout Kentucky and Ohio and Tennessee. And
In the South?
In the South.
Okay.
And we sang in those churches, and I was a little kid, and my favorite story about that is being a little kid, and I would stand in front of my mother, who would play the piano. And if I hit a wrong note or did something she didn't like, she would reach around and pinch me on the rear end.
Ow.
And I'd go, oh. And tears would come to my eyes. And all the people in the front row would say, bless his heart, he's feeling the Spirit. And I was.
Yes. Wow.
Actually, it's the same Spirit. but I didn't know that at the time.
So you started out, what, you were 4 years old and you were like used to singing and being in front of people, and how did that continue on in adolescence and high school? And
well, I always got a deep feeling from singing religious music, from singing gospel music, a deep, I like to say, a spiritual feeling from it. And I might mention that while we're not a religion, I think we teach spirituality, a center for spiritual living. And while, you know, I had that as a youth and grew up, and when I got into college, I guess, I didn't want anything to do with that anymore. I'd sort of rejected it. You know, I studied science, I studied biology, and all the things that I studied seemed to say that, well, there wasn't the God that I was told created the world in 6 days just didn't exist. You know, and so I rejected everything that way that had to do with it, and I left, and I became after I graduated, I did some graduate work in physiology, which prepared me for a short career in sales.
in physiology, but your main degree was in what?
Biology chemistry.
Biology chemistry. Who knew? Oh, wow.
Who knew? So I was in sales, and I was selling medical equipment and supplies and stuff like that to doctors and hospitals and things like that. And I was good at it because I understood it, you know, and knew how to talk it. And I became a manager, an assistant sales promotion, and I taught the salesman, the new salesman.
You trained the trainer. There you go.
Taught the new salesman. Now at the time, I didn't know science of mind, so I really didn't know what I was doing, but I observed that certain salesmen always had more. They always had more sales, you know, and all the other salesmen would say, well, he's doing this, or he must be padding the books, or, you know, there was always any excuses. But these guys, year after year, would be selling way up there. And so I observed them, and what they had was what we would call a consciousness for it. In other words, they believed they were going to sell a lot, and so they did. And the other guys who were down there would kind of not do it, you know, and that really struck me. So, not getting into a lot of detail, at some point I thought, this is not for me. I don't want to wind up being later in life thinking I'm not, because I really wanted to sing. I really wanted to have music and stuff in my life. And so I quit that business and moved to California and got into the music business.
Wow.
So, you know, that career perfectly prepared me for a career in the music business. And that was okay. I became a songwriter and a musician and played clubs and all that kind of stuff out there.
In Los Angeles?
In Los Angeles.
Okay.
And which was a different kind of life.
Which is not Kentucky?
No, not at all.
Right.
Or not when I was in that company, I was living in northern Indiana and northern Ohio. So that was, so I've had some changes in my life.
Yeah.
But so in California, I went through some series, and I'll just make the long story short. I was going through a divorce, going through a hard time. It was in my life, and a friend said, "Why don't you come with me over to this church over here I go to?" And I said, "Nah, you know, I don't want to go to church. Not for me." And he said, "No, it's not like that. It's like, you know, it's something different. You know, if you don't like it, don't ever come back. I'll never ask you again." And so I went.
That's a nice invitation.
And when I went, it was like, oh, it was like it appealed to my mind. That is, what they said makes sense. the minister at that place did a lot of encounter groups and stuff. He was a psychologist, and so what he was saying appealed to my mind, and also what he was saying and what people there were feeling appealed to my heart.
So heart and mind
So my
combo.
heart and mind, I went, oh, I see. And I guess because of my science background, the idea that this was a science, meaning there was a way that it worked. So science, any kind of science, relies on laws. You know, like we understand the laws of physics to a great degree, and understand there's some more laws of physics.
Gravity.
Yeah, that we don't understand. I know if I throw something up in the air, it's going to come down. Law of gravity. So we can use that, though. We can use the law of aerodynamics and fly airplanes and all this other stuff. But what I came to understand is that there was a law of what we call the law of mind, which is that a person who starts thinking about something and visualizing it, and maybe even has a board, or maybe writes affirmations about it, or gets it firmly in his mind and his heart, I can do this, I'm going to do this. And they keep at it and pray like it's so, then what this does is, if modern physics is telling us that everything is some kind of energy, it's all energy, and that what we are doing then is giving energy to this great quantum field of infinite potential. This is not me, this is what the physicists are saying. It's infinite potential, and it's almost like saying anything that could be already exists as a potential, but it needs something, the energy from us as our thoughts, feelings, pictures, words, to activate it and make it create into form in our experience of life. So that's a short.
That's a great explanation.
But it's,
yeah.
So I found that, you know, I was really feeling sorry for myself at the time, back to my sad story.
Right, right. So
I
you
was
went to
in a
this
change,
church.
I wasn't making any money, so I was
Were
in
you
a
smoking
church.
a lot too?
Well, that was years before that. But,
Oh, okay.
But yes, I did quit smoking one time, but I'll get to that later. So at this time, I'm living in a one-room apartment. You know, what do they call those? Studios. Yeah. So it was a studio that had a table that came out with 2 legs on it. That was my table. It came out from the wall. And I was feeling sorry for myself and thinking, oh my God, what have I done with my life? And you know, kind of stuff that kind of goes through your mind. And I went there and they said, no, they said, your life is up to you. You know, your life is not the fault of the people around you, or it's not the fault of, your life is really up to you. Your life is up to the way you present yourself to life.
Right.
Are you presenting yourself as the kind of person who can be successful at what you want? Are you presenting yourself as the kind of person that people like? Are you presenting yourself as the kind of person who falls in love and gets love in return? If you're not, then don't expect it.
Right.
And because if you do that, that's what you expect, and you build that sense of expectation. So what I learned was, if I could do prayer work, if I could take classes, and I started changing and shifting the way I was looking at my life.
Your attitude.
My attitude changed. And I started seeing that well, to make a long story short, in short order, after I started taking classes, I'm going to say maybe a year, I got a job writing songs for a big company.
That's huge.
And I was writing songs for them, and I was playing what are called casuals now, but they're in California. I don't know if they have those here. I think they have them here now. But they were just odd musical jobs, and I was getting 3, 4, and 5 of those a week. You know, now I didn't get them before. Suddenly my income was up, and I learned I was giving more. I was tithing back and giving to churches, and I was giving to life what I wanted to receive. So that's the important thing to always remember. What we get out of life is only what we give to it. And if we give it, you know, life sucks and so do I, don't expect to get much more than that back. But if we give it love, if we give it our full attention, if we give to other people, if we give to where we're spiritually fed, if we give to life, we can expect great and good things coming back to us, because that field of energy I discussed later has no choice. It's a law. It can't help but give back to us what we give into it. And so it took me a while to understand that, and as I practice it, I proved it in my life. And so I had some songs that started doing well, and actually
You had some,
I had a #1 song that did well. My songs were being recorded in Nashville, and I was living in Los Angeles.
wow.
So that led me, and I got divorced and all of that stuff, and I wanted someone in my life, and I prayed, and pretty soon I met my then wife, who's passed last year. But I met her, and we had a wonderful life together, and we moved to Nashville together,
and you moved to Nashville because
of the music business.
Of the music business, but
I was not a minister.
You were not a minister,
No.
but you'd gone to
took 2 years worth of classes.
In Science of Mind.
In Science of Mind.
In Los Angeles,
Yeah.
and is that church or that center there still today? Or?
No, actually, no, neither one of those are still there today.
okay.
But there's some other big churches there today
Okay.
doing the same thing.
Yeah.
But so anyhow, yeah, I as a demonstration, I'll tell you how that demonstration worked for me when I moved to Nashville. Everybody said, "Oh, you can't go to Nashville because everybody there is all the songs are booked up with certain companies, and you can't do anything there."
Right.
Well, I was writing with a guy, and we wrote a song, and I was playing it for my publisher, and he says, that's great for Barbara Mandrell.
Oh.
And she had a hot show at the time. This is
Right.
telling
TV
my age
show.
now.
Yeah.
Yeah, she had a TV show at the time. And he says, wow, and people said, well, we send it to the Nashville office. He said, no, we can't get it because her producer doesn't do anybody's outside songs. Well, my publisher said, I'll get it to her. And he did, and she listened to it and recorded it,
Wow.
And
in
so,
spite of what they said,
in spite of
you
everything
can't.
they said.
I don't believe that either.
So I was going to move to Nashville, and everybody said, well, you can't move there, It's like, well, you're going to have to get a job doing so. I said, no, I want to be in the music business. So I came to Nashville, and inside of a week, I had a job. After much prayer and thinking, I had a job working for Loretta Lynn. And she was hot at the time, that was just after Coal Miner's Daughter. So this is another big change. And now I'm working kind of in the publishing, and I'm also writing for her. And she did a lot of my songs, and other people did them, and And
were you at this time also envisioning, I'm going to move to Nashville, I'm going to be good?
No, I wanted to be a singer and a songwriter.
Oh, you wanted to be the star.
Yeah.
Okay.
Hard to believe, isn't it?
Yeah.
But yeah, I wanted to be. I wanted to do that. In fact, short aside, when I decided to become a minister, I went to my wife and I said, "I think I'm going to be a minister." And she said, "What?
What?
What?" But so, long story short, a few years went by, and I've had this other urge, and that you should always listen to your urges from your heart. Your intuition said, maybe, there wasn't a Science of Mind center here. There was a Unity Church here, which is very similar, and teaches New Thought, which Science of Mind is a part of, and very similar in its teachings, but it wasn't quite the same for me. And so I was used to kind of more of the, do this and this and this and this, and you'll get this, and which felt like I got from that. So my first idea was, I'll get a minister to come here, and then we'll start a center, or a church. And so I got a couple of them from Florida. There was a couple of ministers that came up, and it just didn't work out. And then someone said, well, why don't you do it? I said, me? And they said, yeah, we like you better than them. So I started it out with, I think I'll just hold it and I met at a hotel downtown, with
at a hotel.
8 friends around a table,
Okay.
And I thought, well, I'll just do this until we build it up and get a real minister in.
Right.
And then pretty soon we had a crowd, and Kennedy Schultz was the president of the organization at that time, and he lived in Atlanta, and he came up, and I got him on the radio and all that stuff, and so he was impressed, and he said, "I'll tell you what," said, you go and get your practitioner's thing, and I'll make you a provisional minister after that.
Mm-hmm.
You know, but you can come down and take the 4th year, the ministerial course from me. And I said, okay. And so at that time, and talk about the way timing works, if it's supposed to be. So at that time, that very same next month, a guy moved to Huntsville, Alabama, and taught a 3rd year practitioner class. So I drove down there every week and back and took the practitioner class. And in the meantime, I'm meeting, and by now I'd grown to, you know, 25, 30 people, and maybe closer to 50, and moved to a different hotel. And then I started taking the ministerial course from Kennedy in Atlanta, and then the rest is history.
Okay.
And then I started the church. That's been almost 28 years ago now.
Wow. And was this always a vision?
No.
It was not.
It was like, well, the visioning came afterwards, but it felt so right to me. I left a little part of that out. After only a couple weeks of doing that to build it up for another minister, I thought, this feels good.
I like this. And whether the focus was on you, the minister, and the philosophy.
And I love to teach, and I love to teach this philosophy. I say, if nothing else, if people don't get anything else out of this, you know, because you're in this philosophy with me, and a lot of other people are, this is the greatest teaching in the world. This teaching can literally heal you, physical ailments. I've seen that done. This teaching can create a kind of life that is incredible. And I'm not just talking about money and love and all that, but it can create that if you are willing to become a vehicle through which that happens. And you become that vehicle by allowing greater thoughts and ideas, or if you will, you want to think of it this way, more of God or more of Spirit to work through you in a greater way than ever before. So it's the greatest teaching in the world, and I'm so glad and proud to be been a part of it, and I've seen it change so many people's lives for the better, and I get God bumps thinking about it.
God bumps. And tell us how one can be schooled in this. Do you just show up at the church on Charlotte Avenue, or are there classes, or tell us about that?
Well, certainly you can go to classes. Certainly if you come to the service, you'll always hear something practical that you can take out into your everyday life. So it's through classes, and it's through talking about it, and it's through learning to live it. And I found that classes are the best way to start learning to live that stuff, because you interact with other people, and you're consistently learning and talking about it. You have to start shifting, changing the way you look at life and the way you look at yourself.
Transitioning you into something different.
Yes. And I like to think it's, even though people say, well, I've become someone different, but you are really becoming more who you really are, I like to say.
Right.
And who you really are is this infinite, confident, and capable being who has an incredible power to see and lift and help others. You know, we're not just here to help ourselves.
Right.
And we're here, certainly if we help ourselves, others can see that, and they say, how'd you do that? In fact, that's the best way. You don't try to force this. We don't try to force this teaching on anybody.
Right.
But we want it to grow, and we think that we offer the greatest teaching in the world. And at least I'm sold on it.
And one can be from any background, and you can have a Jewish background, a Christian background, anything, because this philosophy is a wonderful philosophy, and you can still have your whatever deities.
And we have people who are practicing Catholics who go to the Catholic Church and then come to our service. We've had people who are Jewish who would do the same thing. It is a wonderful philosophy. So it's like that. It's wonderful, and I'm really proud of you, Becky, because you're a person who's used it and applied it in her life and done very well with it. So
yes,
bless you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Yeah, And I think it's important to continuously be reminded. I'm back taking classes, and I took classes 20 years ago.
Yeah.
But I'm back taking classes myself to remind myself of how wonderful I am and the good that is out there. Yeah. And it really reflects in my real estate practice, and people in my office go, yeah, you're really positive. Like something's the matter, you're really positive. Yeah, this deal is coming down, and but there'll be another deal, it's fine, and you just going with the flow and releasing and
well,
and
people
all that.
are very caught up in the idea that there's a tragedy happening, and that seems to be true. We're geared to fear, it seems, in so many cases. But the truth is, we're also geared to love. And this is about love. See?
Yes.
And I like to think that when things happen to us, or when changes happen to us, what we have to understand is there's some love there behind it.
Mm-hmm.
If we looked at the leaves changing on the trees in the fall, we'd say, oh my God, isn't that a tragedy? Those leaves are all falling down and dead. Yet they have to do that.
Yeah, and then
in order to survive.
There's new life.
Yeah.
So we're going to put your the website on there for people to know about.
Oh, good.
And tell again where people can go and hear you speak on Sundays, or sign up for classes, or.
Well, come by the Center for Spiritual Living. It's at the corner of Brook Hollow and Charlotte, 6705 Charlotte Pike. Mm-hmm. The phone number, if you want to call, is 615-356-0174. You can also get the website at CSL, Center for Spiritual Living, Nashville. So it's cslnashville.org. Mm-hmm. And you go there and you'll find pictures and people and all kinds of things, and new classes and new events. And we have a community where we've got several things going this month. Mm-hmm. For example, Saturday we're all volunteering for the Hands-on Nashville thing, which is very big, and a lot of, they're having a picnic, and well, there's other things that are happening this summer.
So there's social aspects and everything to it also.
But the classes are where you really get this philosophy, and you get it in such a way that you can practice it. And it's really about what we teach is something we call prayer treatment, or treatment. And what it is, it's just you telling you that your prayer is really so, that it's already happened.
And the belief in it. And I want to remind our audience that there's going to be show number 2. If you were enticed by this, wait till you hear show number 2 also. So we have lots of more information and more inspirational stories. Reverend Dr. Mitch Johnson.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much. And Transitions, Body, Mind, Spirit. Thank you.